About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Good evening and welcome to our latest AQA A-Level Sociology live stream, and we are focusing tonight on educational policies, which is one of the topics that last week we discovered was definitely going to be examined in the summer. There will be a 30-mark question on paper 1 relating to educational policies. And I am joined tonight by Craig, aka the sociology guy, and Katie. So good evening all. And there are lots of you joining us live, which is brilliant to see. And we know also that there are many more of you who will join us on catch up. If you can already start doing thumbs up for us if you like. I'll remind you again at the end to do the likes if you're finding this a useful activity. Okay, so we are going to... Shall we get straight into it? Straight into our first activity?
Let's do it.
Yeah, okay. I think it's with Craig, and it's the application gallery. Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Duncan. Just to answer a quick question there, no, we did one on functions of family a couple of weeks ago, which you can catch up with on YouTube, and we've done some other family ones last year, so you can catch up on those. That was Draco. On the application gallery, what we do is we show you a number of pictures, and what you have to do is you have to identify concepts that are linked with a theme. So we will show you the pictures. See the first picture? Okay, so what we have here is we have a picture of what looks like deprivation. What you have to do is identify educational policies that have been there to tackle deprivation. Okay, so as we can see on the screen, sort of like there's, sort of there's a room with damp, mold, sort of like two kids sort of like in a bed. There's a big thing at the moment about bed poverty and about how people have to share beds. Let's look at some of the policies. So if we click on the timer, what you need to do is just name policies that tackle material deprivation in the chat window on the right hand side. So any policies that might tackle deprivation. From that picture. Okay, so we've got Fatima coming through, free school meals, Pupil premium, a couple of good policies. Pupil premium, EMA. Free school meals again. Education action zones, that's a good one. PISA rankings. Could look at that one. Education action zones and Sure Start there from Melissa. Ellie's come up with education action zones, Sure Start, different teaching strategies, free school meals, lots of common ones there. That music was really loud this week. Last week it was, it was a lot quieter. What I've put in there is EMA, Pupil Premium, free school meals, and the government giving out laptops during lockdown. So there's some of the policies you could use. There were some other good ones that came through there, which I think we covered. So now you've got a hang of sort of like how this activity goes. What we have is we have two more pictures. On the left-hand side, we have a bunch of pictures about companies. And on the right-hand side, we have a picture of a test. So what policies might be linked to companies and what policies might be linked to tests? Let's start the clock now. Some good policies coming through a little bit late there. Things like safeguarding, excellence in cities, aim higher program, all to tackle deprivation. They were really good policies. Marketization is a good one for companies. Think about the otherization. 11 plus for tests. It's a good one. EMA, I'll explain in a minute when the music stops. Privatization, Melissa's come up with. Education, the Butler Act. Okay, another good one. Privatization. Impacts of globalization from Olga. Privatization from Laurel. Privatization, quite a few people have got that. Formula funding. Standardized testing, that's a good one.
Yeah, some good ones.
Okay, just to really good ones there coming through. Just to explain what EMA was. EMA was Education Maintenance Allowance. It was a means tested benefit that was given of about £30 a week for students who stayed on in education between the ages of 16 and 18 under New Labour. The coalition government removed it when they increased the school leaving age in 2011. 2010, 2011. Okay, let's look at some of the responses. Lots of good responses coming through here that we can draw from those. So privatization in education. So the idea that lots of companies are now taking over aspects of the education system. I've put up some tech companies there because some schools sort of like are sponsored by people like Microsoft or Apple or Google for the different classroom, for the different technological technological equipment that's used in schools. And let's look at the one on the right. Yeah, standardized testing, GCSEs, SATs, A-levels. Some people said marketization on that one. They could also use that with that privatization thing, but the idea of marketization, well, it gives people choice and competition. And one of the ways in which schools compete with each other is through standardized testing and through standardized testing results, things like league tables.
Yeah, 11 plus was a good. The 11 plus was a good possible answer for that one as well, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was. That was a good one, particularly selection policies. Yeah. Okay, so now we have three pictures on here. The first one pretty much is given away for you. It says the global rankings, maths, reading, and science. The other one is two schools with a tick by one school, and the other one is money. What looks like money and education. Let's start the music. So we've got silt shifting, league tables, parentocracy, marketization, some good responses there. Formula funding, marketization, league tables, yeah. Particularly focused on what type of league table is it? Private schools, enrollment of private schools, catchment areas, that's a nice one. Vouchers for parents, linking into the ideas of likes of Chubb and Mo. League tables, marketization. Quite a few good ones coming through. Ofsted. Okay. Globalization, free schools. Okay. Meritocracy. Oh, I can see where meritocracy comes with a global ranking scheme. But yeah, you can see the idea. The harder you work, the better you get. League tables. Formula funding. Okay, lots of really good answers coming through there. National curriculum tables. Let's look at our responses that came through. Cream skimming. Somebody put silk shifting before, but it's silt shifting. But yeah, that could be one. International rankings. Obviously, globalization and educational policy is in the advanced information area. And that's one that you should know. The idea of using tests like PISA and TIMSS for countries to compare results with one another.
I think Alex mentioned PISA in the chat window, which is very good.
There was a mention of PISA in there. A second one, increased choice of schools, so parentocracy, marketization. Some people mentioned free schools, some people mentioned different types of schools, open enrollment in catchment areas, so the increased choice in schools there. And our next one was educational funding, things like formula funding. Even you could have put in their private schools, which I think some people did put in, the idea that some schools are better financed than others. There are a number of links that have been put up in the chat window there by Tutor2U to help you out. We've done videos on all of these topics: globalization, education policy, marketization, and education policy. Silt shifting is the idea that they remove students who aren't going to achieve and place them into lower ability schools through the process of banding. They try to off-roll students who aren't that great, but that's another concept. But we're going to hand over to Katie, and she's going to do a Give Me Two.
Excellent. Right. So our quite a simple one, but it's really focusing on sort of keeping it quite contemporary. So literally, I just want you to write down in the chat 2 policies that have impacted on learning during lockdown and the pandemic. So we're sort of keeping it really super contemporary. Just be mindful of that in the exams. They sometimes refer to that and say, like, can you write something that's contemporary? So if you can put them into chat. If you've got time, you're really quick at typing, which Emma obviously is. You might want to talk about how if you wanted to. So off we go. Sorry.
Have you got your bongos with you, Katie?
Right, for the music.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it should be somewhere like Portugal, maybe. Yeah. So it's really great. So we've got Zoom, we've got online lessons there, online learning, laptops. Yeah, Pupil Premium, that's a good one. If you want to put how, if you're really quick and you've type your answer already, there's schools closures, isolation, people with free school meals, yep. Can you think about who sort of got on board with free school meals? Yeah. Brilliant. Oh, that was a quick 30 seconds. I got really into the music there, Duncan. So we've got quite a few there. Interesting that we sort of talked about sort of at home, isolation. We've got Ashford or Marcus Slay. We've got the idea of lack of free school meals. Someone's written Labour, but I'm not. If you can unpick that a little bit, that'd be great. We've also got schooling for children's parents. Yep, we're frontline key workers, so sort of some people in school. So loads of ideas here. And what's really great about this is that you can sort of unpick that and explain how as well. So if you can write them down, like we'll put our answers up. Obviously, you've got better ones than I have. So first of all, obviously remote learning, but a lot of you have talked about online learning. And then we've got the free school meals, but people also talked about Pupil Premium and how those students would have been impacted by that. And obviously the fact that Marcus Rashford got on board with that. We've also got isolation after testing positive, which obviously continues up until this point. We don't know. We've also got the idea that the schools were actually shut, which some people have put on there as well. And we've got a great idea about sort of the key workers and some students was left at home. We've also got the idea maybe of the policy with some children working from home and their parents also working. So that sort of made it a bit more difficult. Lots on there. I was thinking about another one just now as you were writing. You probably could put it in the furlough as well. That was quite an interesting one where obviously that was, although that's not directly related to education, that might have meant that some parents could have helped their children at home as well. So lots of great answers. They're amazing. I'm going to hand you back to the sociology guy for the connections.
Oh, hello. I'm getting my my Twitter handle here today. I know what's going on. Okay, the connection spinner. What we're going to do is we're going to make one of the things you have to do is be able to link policies to the impact. So one of the potential sort of things that they may look at is looking at policies that have improved outcomes for different groups. So we've got educational policy in the centre. We're looking for policies that have improved outcomes of the groups that are listed on the spinner. The spinner will go round and it will point to a certain group. And what you need to do is you need to identify a policy that has improved the outcome of that group. Okay.
This is fun.
Yeah, it is. It's lots of fun, isn't it? So let's see. We've got girls, working class boys, black pupils, South Asian pupils, Chinese pupils, and middle class pupils. Let's try and see where the spinner is going to land this week.
It's like so Michael McIntyre's The Wheel.
So, give me an educational policy that has improved the outcome of girls. So there's a few people sort of jump the gun there, so they kind of put things like Sure Start, GIST, WISE, STEM, the introduction of GIST. GIST is girls in science and technology. WISE is women in science and engineering. STEM, for those who don't know, is science, technology, engineering, and maths. GIST, WISE, and STEM. Yeah, lots of people. GCSEs and coursework. Okay, that's a good one. And yeah, lots of people coming through with GIST and WISE. Curriculum changes. Okay, good one, Hannah. Equal Pay Act. Equal Pay Act is different because it's a social policy, right? This is where we have indirect and direct policies. So a direct policy or an educational policy is one that has an aim of having an impact on education, whereas the Equal Pay Act was a broader range of things. It was focused on work. So that wouldn't be seen as an educational policy. That would be a social policy, but you can use it if the question asks about social policy, but not if it asks about educational policy. That's very, but anyway. Okay, so let's see the answer. Increasing female teachers, okay, maternity leave we've got in there as well. The introduction of the national curriculum. So lots of people sort of put things like GCSE and coursework, GIST and WISE. They're all good policies that you can use. The introduction of the national curriculum meant that girls and boys couldn't be segregated for subjects. It meant that girls were able to sort of freely choose whatever subjects they wanted to do, and that was in 1988. So let's spin again and let's see if we get something other than girls.
I saw the one access to female hygiene projects. I think that's quite a good one. Sort of the red box.
It is a good one.
That's really.
But how does it? It is one there, but what we're looking at as well is how it impacts on outcomes.
I can think of ways, but you would, if you were writing it, you'd need to extend the point, wouldn't you? And explain.
You would kind of,
point.
You can do. So students are less likely to miss school and then and have the knock-on effect of that. Yeah, you could do that one. But it is a good policy to put in. Let's hit the spinner again, see which group we get now this time. We've got a Guardian article in the chat now. We're getting very highbrow. Okay, so can we name a policy that has improved the outcome of black pupils, either black African or black Caribbean pupils? Can we think of a policy that has improved outcomes of those groups? EPA and EMA. Okay, so EPA is education. I know EMA is education maintenance allowance. EPA, I wonder if it's like education action zones or something like that. Free school meals, Black Lives Matter is not really an educational policy. Black History Month, potentially. It's not necessarily, again, that's not necessarily a specific educational policy there. Was it voluntary Saturday school? Pupil premium. Okay. MLF. Not quite sure. Pupil premium, multicultural educational policies. Okay, that's a good one. Inclusion of multiculturalism in under New Labour, making the spectrum, making the subject ranges broader. Every child matters. Sure Start. Okay, so there's some good ones as long as you can apply them. Let's see what I put. There was a policy that was introduced under New Labour called the Black Children's Achievement Programme, which helped to improve educational outcomes for Black African and Black Caribbean children right across the spectrum from sort of like early years right through to higher education. There's another one. I always get these two confused. Aim High, I think, was it a policy that was brought into London schools that improved the educational outcomes are. Yeah, they could also have an impact on outcomes, but with questions about equality, it's worth having worth knowing policies that will have improved outcomes as well.
The ones that were which we'd normally perhaps use for social class could well be right, but you would things like Sure Start and EMA and things, but you would need to take it a little bit further and explain why it would have an impact for Black pupils. Yeah.
I think what you do if you pick a policy that is very specific to a certain ethnic group, then what it shows a wider knowledge and understanding, sort of like, and that might separate you from sort of like other students that are going on there. So it's worth knowing one or two policies for each of the different ethnic groups that have been put in place that have had an positive impact on their outcomes. So our next one's with me too. Let's look at the evalu wheel. Okay, so the evalu wheel, what we do is obviously with the advanced information being on the 30 marker, you're going to have to build in lots of evaluation into your essays. So we're going to have a couple of points shown on the screen. And what we will do is we'll spin the wheel and it will ask you to give a certain type of evaluation. Now, lots of people think an evaluation is just a criticism. It's not. An evaluation is a judgment on the effectiveness of an explanation. So this can be a strength, it could be a criticism, it could be an alternative viewpoint, it could be a limitation, or it could be a piece of evidence that either supports or criticizes the point that has been made. So let's look at our first point. Okay, so the students made the argument there that the comparing with other nations allows the government to adopt policies that will improve outcomes for students. So this is about globalization and education. How might we evaluate the idea that the government makes comparisons with other nations, with the teaching and learning that's happening in other nations? Let's see what we're looking for here. Are we looking for a strength, a criticism, an alternative, a limitation, or some evidence? Okay, so we've gone with grey. So what we need to do is we need to criticise this argument, okay? So how might we criticise the idea that the government is influenced by league table rankings, international league table rankings? What it does is it takes policies from other countries and it applies them to the UK. How might we criticise that? We could go through some of the policies that have helped other groups. A lot of those, sort of like when you look at inequality, we've got a number of different videos, sort of like on the Tutors U YouTube, to go through those, because otherwise it would take up most of the time in this session, to be honest with you. But things like pupil premium, lots of other policies like that can be done. So how can we criticise the idea that comparing with other nations allows the government to adopt policies that will improve outcomes for students? Okay, it might not work out, may not be applicable. Okay, good point. Emma's made a good point. It's about a cultural bias. Why might it not be applicable to the UK? That's where the criticism would be. Why might it not be applicable? And Emma's put in a bit there that might help you. Okay, so countries like China have very strict rules. Okay, basically the cultural differences we could look at, how it depends on each society differently on the norms and values. Some really good, it's like Kauser and Zine. Educated like a business only operates to come on top of the tables. Okay, we could argue that that's a good one, and instead of actually it teaches the test. Let's look at our criticism. Many policies are adopted without consideration of the cultural differences between nations. So there's a couple of people, sort of like you said, that cultural bias, the idea of, it might not be applicable to British culture, some of the ideas that are put in place. So, for example, some of the policies in places like South Korea and China, where they have longer school days and they have after school tutoring, and they have, they're working 12 hours a day, sort of like in school. It might have an impact. Yes, go on, Duncan.
I was just going to say, interesting when you look at countries that outperform us by a lot in the PISA rankings, for example. Yes, it's countries like China and Singapore, but it's also countries like Finland, which and the policies are so completely different that if we're trying to say, well, which we'll borrow what's successful, well, totally different things are successful in different places. I mean, that's
those cultures are very different.
Yeah.
And those cultures are very different. Finnish and the other Scandinavian nations, so like their culture is very different from the Chinese and South Korean culture.
While we're on globalization, we've got an activity from Katie before we do another evaluation. So we've got some 30-second challenges.
There we go. Are we ready? Oh, we jumping to me. Right, so 30-second challenge. Actually, a lot of these points you've highlighted already. So we're going to focus on globalisation here. You've got 30 seconds to answer the questions on the screen. So are we ready, Duncan? First one is, what does globalisation mean? So obviously from a sociological perspective, I know some of you will take geography and have your own definitions. So let's write the answer down. Off we go.
This one's quite dramatic, this music, isn't
it? I know. So Diane, the interconnectedness of countries and nations, as Viola said the same. What interconnectedness is there? So we've got political, social and economic, becoming interconnectedness. So maybe unpick what type. We've already got one example, two examples, socially and economically. Brilliant. So we've got the main concept that it's interconnected, but it's the idea that it's social, political, cultural and economic. I know that obviously there are other ones. We've got technological as well, so that's brilliant. Excellent. So we have the next question. We've got lots of answers there. So the next one are two education policies that have impacted and been shaped by globalization. So some of these might be stuff that you've already said already, so let's see what you've got. The more of the challenging questions. Two policies. We've got free school meals, we've got the P's, we've got league tables, marketization, free school meals, international rankings, which is PISA, premium, league tables. So again, we've got lots of examples. Remember, it's about the unpicking. Obviously, you've got lots of keywords, but obviously, or types of policies, but making sure you're unpicking how. So we've got most of them, I think I've already said. We've brilliantly got Singapore maths, obviously the approach to maths in the UK. Free schools, brilliant. We've also got other ones I've added on there was Prevent, which is obviously about response to sort of students at risk of potentially risk of fundamentalism. We've also got the idea of British values and how that sort of response to globalisation. 11 plus, so you could potentially unpick that maybe through competition, maybe on the global. I'm thinking.
There was an interesting one earlier about the policy of getting half pupils to go to university. That one was definitely about international competition, wasn't it? I think some of the others you'd need to. If you know how you could link it to globalization, I'd be interested to see some of the other policies. 11 plus is going right back to the 1940s, and so I'd be interested to see a link with globalization. But there's a question there. What's PISA?
PISA is, I think, sort of Craig or sociology guy mentioned earlier. It's the international ranking of schools, and obviously you can evaluate PISA as well in the sense that they're sort of testing how culturally biased it might be, what countries opt into it. There's sort of lots of unpicking and evaluation of that as well. Worth going on the PISA website, and you can sort of have a play around with that. I recommend you doing that. But it's worth sort of explaining, especially like the free school meals. Maybe I'm assuming maybe it's to sort of compete with global standards, maybe. But definitely, like as Duncan said, it'd be interesting just for you to unpick that. Okay, the next question, Duncan. So sticking with the evaluation, I think some of these are mentioned already. I would like you to write down 3 criticisms, if you can do more, fantastic, of the impact of globalisation on education. Okay, so 3 criticisms. Off we go. Might be a problem with globalisation in education. A little mini essay, yeah, excellent cultural bias there, which someone mentioned earlier, so that's brilliant. So free schools may be unsuccessful fairly in any countries. Yeah, doesn't consider cultural differences. We adopted things that aren't necessarily good for such as free schools, and actually add social and religious segregation, brilliant. Globalization exaggerated, brilliant. So the idea is, it actually that, are we that global? Which is sort of nice sort of evaluation. We've also got the idea of cultural biases. We've also got the idea of maybe the sort of business, like not thinking about maybe the well-being of students, which we talked about, mental health of students. We've also got, assume we talk about colonisation there. So we've got lots of evaluations. So can we, Duncan, have some of the answers? A lot of those of you better than the ones I've got. So mentioned a lot of time that ignores the cultural differences between countries. And as Duncan highlighted earlier, is there something else that means that students are achieving when you think countries like Sweden and Finland educate their students very differently, say to Singapore and to South Korea. It's quite an expensive system to implement, and there's a lot of evaluation about the countries that are very much focusing on PISA and the international ranking. There is, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of emphasis on maths and English, which might have an impact on students' well-being and mental health, obviously science as well. So lots of great ideas. Learning for exams instead of learning to really know. So that sort of enriched learning that might be missing. Maybe that's because how we pick it up in the UK, maybe. And you've got the idea of ignoring subjects like food and dance. So lots there. Oh, depends on the patriarchy in the society. I'd love to know a little bit more about that. It sounds really interesting. I'd love to see how that impacts. Are we suggesting that globalisation is an example of patriarchy? I don't know. Okay, interesting. I'm going to pass you back to Craig. Thank you for that, Emma, by the way.
Thank you. We're on to a value wheel part 2. So again, we did the value wheel like about 5 minutes ago. So let's go through to our next next statement, and let's see if we get a strength, criticism, alternative, limitation, or evaluation for this one. This one is about pupil premium. So it says policies such as pupil premium allow for schools to purchase additional resources in order to counteract the impacts of material deprivation. It's a valid point, and it's a point that you might put in an essay, but how would we evaluate that? How would we make a judgment on the effectiveness of that, of pupil premium? Let's spin the wheel and see what type of evaluation we need. It's a blue one, which is evidence that supports or criticises the statement. So what evidence could we find that pupil premium either is working or is not working? What evidence might we find for the success or failure of pupil premium? Okay, so Ruben's sort of like saying schools didn't spend the money properly and instead spent it on infrastructure. So obviously you've got the new school buildings, lots of IT equipment being purchased and all sorts of things like that. Yeah, you could use that. Certainly. Tries to give everyone a fair chance by providing them with resources they may not be able to afford otherwise. Okay, let's find a little bit of evidence. That's the type of evaluation we're looking for. Free school meals are being questioned and was stopped. Okay. Bit of evidence that links into free school meals we could look at. Laptops being given to students in lockdown to help with their learning. Big gap between the middle class and working class outcomes. That's a good one to use. Look at the educational progress of pupils on free school meals. Yeah, there's a few good responses coming through there. Since pupil premium has been implemented, results have been steadily increasing in general. Okay, yeah, you could use that if you got some decent, if you had some stats to back that up. People who need the premium don't always get it. Paul Willis didn't get any pupil premium. Middle class will still achieve way above the average. It's not closing the gap. That's a good. It's a good point. It's not useful to give a kid a textbook if they have no space at home to revise. So the idea would be that might be a criticism rather than a piece of evidence, but it is a very good criticism there, Alex. It may impact how people view themselves if they need pupil premium, feeling marginalised, particularly where you see some schools will identify the pupil premium children differently. I've seen some stories of pupil premium children wearing different coloured lanyards and things like that, which I think is personally is wrong. What are you? Oh, Duncan's messing about with something there. Let's see our evidence. What did I use as evidence for this?
Oh, someone's quoted Ofsted in the chat window.
I know.
Brilliant. It's a nice one. That really is a nice one. In kind of many cases, pupil premium is not spent on those it is supposed to help. That's a really nice piece of evidence to use. I've gone with DFE data, which sort of like suggests that people on free school meals still underachieve in comparison to their peers. So even though this money is being given to schools, it's not having the desired effect, right? We still have this issue of, effectively 2/3 of pupils on free school meals not achieving the kind of the landmarks that they're supposed to achieve. 1 in 10 teachers have changed in how they were able to support pupils. Okay, pupil premium could lead to labelling. Yeah, there's lots of different good things in there.
I'm just thinking that 1 in 10 head teachers one's interesting because obviously that means 9 in 10 head teachers presumably didn't think it.
So they can't.
So you could look at that one either way, couldn't you?
And when they say changed, is it positively changed how they're supported or negative though?
We might need to see that study, mightn't we? to look at it in a bit more detail. But that's the sort of thing we want, isn't it? That evidence. That's really good.
A little piece of evidence that would either criticize or support that students achieve better GCSE grades with pupil premium. What you might do is make a comparison there, so they can say before pupil premium they achieved this, after pupil premium they achieved that, and that's how you're making your judgment. So you're always having to justify the argument, if you know what I mean. And I think that is everything apart from Duncan's word smash.
Yeah, well, I thought
it wouldn't be a Wednesday. It wouldn't be 7 o'clock on a Wednesday without a Duncan Hall word smash, would it?
Well, everyone enjoyed it so much last week that I thought we could do another one. So, if you haven't seen one of these word smashes before, I imagine a lot of you have. But if you haven't, there's just an explanation of how it works on the screen there. It's like Richard Osman's House of Games. So there you got a picture of an elephant. The answer to the clue is Antarctica. So you smash them together, and it becomes Elephantarctica. So the end of the first word becomes the beginning of the second. Don't worry, the rest of them all relate to educational policy, not to continents. But the pictures don't. So we've got a clue that's to do with educational policy and a picture that doesn't. So we've got something going on in that picture, and then we've got an exam taken by pupils to determine which school they should attend in a selective system. For example, the tripartite system. Okay. So, anyone do it? Oh, well, Curtis has got the right answer. I don't know if anyone wants to do the smashing element of it. It is an American shop, yes. 7-Eleven Plus, well done, Ruben. Yeah, very good. There we go. The 7-Eleven and the 11 Plus, smash them together. It becomes 7-Eleven Plus. Well done. Oh, lots of you getting it. Very good. And obviously, even more of you getting the important bit, which is the 11 Plus bit. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. So, a local mixed ability non-selective secondary school. We're looking for a genre, really, with those pictures on the left. That's my clue. It's not the specific films, it's sort of a genre of films. And then a local mixed ability non-selective comprehensive school. Kowser's got the right answer for the clue. Well done. Anyone?
I'm starting to think that Duncan was knocked back from hosting like Film 2022 or something like that, because every week we're getting a different set of films here.
Yeah. Oh, well, quite a few people got it. Melissa, genre, Curtis, lots of people have got it. Comprehensive school, absolutely. It's rom-com and comprehensive school. Comprehensive school. Very good.
I do like that response. Love comprehensive. That's kind of. That's a film that we could write, isn't it?
It could, like Love Actually, Love Comprehensive. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, maybe not. I think we've done the title now. I'm not sure the film would be any good. Right. No. Let's do. I think it's the last one. Vocational qualification, first introduced in 1984. Anyone?
I've got to put myself on mute for this one.
Don't know why. Okay.
I think he was excited that he actually has got it, I think, maybe.
Maybe it's because he's got
it would be a first. It would be a first, yeah. I don't get the rules of this game.
MVQs.
NVQs.
But who's the? I mean, MVQs were a vocational qualification introduced around that time. I'm not sure how we'd link it to. Mrs. got it. Liv's got it. Well done, Cardi B Tech. Well done. Very good. Yeah, Cardi B and B Tech, smash them together. It becomes Cardi B Tech.
Done.
Well done. Some great answers there. Okay. You did brilliantly. Loads of excellent answers in the chat window this evening. Fantastic. If you want more, there are also lots of links in the chat window. So go and before that disappears, scroll back and find the links. But if you've got a smart device, you can scan that QR code on the screen. We've got lots of study notes, videos by Craig, learning activities, etc. on the Teach2Do website about this topic and many others. And of course, it is a plug.
The Instagram thing.
Oh, absolutely! If you follow Teach2Do Soc on Instagram, there'll be daily questions. Yeah, absolutely. So you can practice your revision through from now till the exams with your daily questions on Instagram. We also on the website there is our ever popular exam skills workbook, revision guides, flashcards, you name it. Okay, I'm going to return to the studio. And Craig's looking very relaxed there.
I'm still getting over Cardi B Tech.
I know.
It's a good one. Okay, thanks everyone.
It's the best so far.
Okay, great stuff. So we will be back this time next week for more sociology. We're focusing on these topics that have come up in the advanced information for the time being. So, although don't forget that you do need to know all the rest of it for your 4, 6 and 10 markers. Okay, can you remember what it is we're doing next time, Craig, or shall we just leave them?
Family policy.
Family policies. Oh, of course, yes. So that'd be exciting.
We did do functions of family 2 weeks ago, which is obviously sort of like part of the advanced information, where we looked at the different theoretical views. But obviously, as part of that advanced information, you also have to look at familial views of social policy. So what functionists, Marxists, feminists think about family social policy, and some examples of social policy as well. So we're going to cover that one next week. And then the weeks after, we are also covering advanced information, aren't we?
Yeah, that's the focus
I've
for a
got
bit.
list of it somewhere on here.
We have. Okay.
We're organised.
Okay, cheers guys. So thanks very much. If you can if you haven't already, click the like button. If we can get it up to 30 before we sign off, we can pay a bonus. And it helps people find these sessions. And also if you subscribe, you'll find out when we're next online. But basically it's this time every week on a Wednesday. All right, cheers guys. Bye-bye.
Take care. Good evening. Bye.